The old-fashioned on the inside, but they want to be the picture of glamour and style on the outside.
Rich emollients make colors stay smooth, stay supple, stay true, stay fresh. Of course, the colors are extraordinary. Of course, they last.
So there's about 1,000 different timelines on the history of red lipstick. That's how long it's been around and just how much people love to talk about it. So just to let you know, as a red lover and red lipstick lover in particular, I'm gonna tell you about some of the most interesting parts of red lipstick's history, deciding what those parts are based on what I find interesting about it and me alone. And you know what should also be for me alone? My data. Yeah, today's video partner is NordVPN. NordVPN is one of the fastest VPN providers in the world with the capability to protect your data no matter where you are. One of the most precarious networks to use is actually public Wi-Fi, a thing that I didn't really know before my passwords got compromised. Because I was using public Wi-Fi in cafes without a VPN, and I know better now, so don't even. The reason for it being so dangerous is actually because your data can be intercepted. It's also possible to connect to a spoof public Wi-Fi that is set up specifically to phish data. You can easily encrypt your information with NordVPN to keep those interceptors out. You can get an exclusive NordVPN deal plus 4 months extra when purchasing 2 years of subscription, and you can do it here at nordvpn.com/Fevral. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. And this is the best deal NordVPN has out right now, and it can only be accessed through creators. Thank you to NordVPN for partnering with my channel. Makeup, just like many other things, went through a lot of ups and downs in history. Sometimes it was a sign of wealth or status, like in ancient Egypt, which is something that you probably heard quite a bit if you researched anything about makeup in general. It was also a similar deal in many other places in the world. However, it was also oftentimes associated with sex work, to the point where in ancient Greece, you were not allowed to not wear a red lipstick if you were a sex worker. Geishas, for example, even though their role is kind of a bit more complex than that of a sex worker, allegedly, because I'm not sure if this belief and this approach to conversation about geishas came from those people who fetishize Japanese culture, because the thing is, a lot of other sex workers in the world were also entertainers or were involved in some other performance arts. It's not like it's a unique concept. It's kind of up to a debate, I think. Basically, geishas also wore red lipstick, as you know. However, all of this makeup and all of these lip products were quite toxic. In some cases, it was better than others. For example, geishas used a flower that was usually yellow, but there were some red ones that would be fermented and then created into a pigment. There were a lot of unsafe metals used in makeup, but I was low-key horrified to find out that in ancient Greece, they also used crocodile feces as an ingredient. That was a lot. Why feces specifically? Maybe I don't want to know. And you know, some of the makeup throughout history included both poisonous and helpful properties in one. For example, the Egyptian kohl that was used as eyeliner came in a little jar with a stick, was sometimes a bit more toxic than not. It depended on the type, and it turns out there was a lot of variety in terms of the types of eyeliner product. Sometimes it was made out of just galena, which is lead sulfide or antimony sulfide. Sometimes it is said that those ingredients could cause some irritation in the eyes, but at the same time, there was also a lot of ingredients that were known for their medicinal benefits that kept the eyes cool and clean. For example, it could be zinc oxide or neem because of its antibacterial qualities, and it was believed that kohl could also help with the evil eye, basically kind of warding off any of the evil spirits or negative energy that's been thrown the person's way. It was such a widespread belief that a lot of people actually thought that if you didn't have eye makeup, you were very vulnerable to evil eye. Another interesting product that was actually extremely poisonous was Venetian cerise, Blanc de cerise de Venise. Famously was, as we all know, or many people know, was used by Queen Elizabeth I. It was very, very white and lead based, okay? It's been always speculated whether people who were wearing those types of makeup that had lead in it actually died earlier because of wearing it, but it's kind of hard to prove, so nobody quite knows exactly, but we already know that lead is quite poisonous, so it is a possibility. The way that it was used was kind of like powder or foundation. You probably have wondered why so many people were so pale in paintings from that time, and of course a part of it is embellishment by the painter because it was kind of a status symbol to be so pale. It is also partially due to this particular product. This type of formula was quite effective to the point where people kind of advertised it as permanent whitening of face, neck, and arms. You know, this isn't great, but lead was present even in rouge, which was very, very popular for years and was kind of the most popular original red lip product. It was mostly used for lip and cheeks. It wasn't just a lip product, but this would be the first widespread and the one that was sold instead of just made at home with home recipes. Of course, you could make it, but that's a different conversation. And one of the most outrageous examples of products for beautifying or hygiene being made toxic is the arsenic soap. Yeah. I guess we can't really judge it too harshly because we have been using arsenic for way too long, and considering the human history and how long it is, we can't really say that we're so far removed from it that we just know so much better than the rest of them. Basically, yeah, arsenic soap. Crazy, I know. Most of the time though, the basic ingredients in a red lipstick would be pretty similar for most of history across the nations and across the globe. It was usually a mixture of oil, pigment of some sort, and usually wax. When we move past the ancient times, we also get a lot more information about how makeup was viewed, and we can see that in Europe, just like years prior, red lipstick was getting a very polarized type of treatment. And it's kind of strange. I would say that for Egyptians, it was more about status and about warding off evil spirits and stuff like that. For Europeans, it became a point of contention between a lot of different groups. Some years were more pro red lipstick, and it was usually due to the fact that they would have a monarch that was a bit more open to the idea or loved it a lot, so everyone else would kind of have to follow along, and it would go back to being largely socially unacceptable whenever the monarch was against it. People oftentimes bring up the fact that in 1770 cosmetics of any kind were banned in England, but it's not really the case. It's not really true information. Honestly, it was mostly just men complaining about women somehow deceiving them with the use of rouge, which is rich to say. With the quality of makeup back then, girl, you can literally see it from a mile away. Maybe not rouge, but definitely their version of foundation. No one, especially back in the day, can really fool anybody into thinking that they look so much different without makeup. Nowadays, it might be a little bit easier because we've all seen those transformation videos that come from Chinese TikTok where they do crazy types of makeup where you can change your entire face. But most people don't know how to do that, so it's always been kind of a silly thing to complain about. So this mysterious makeup that can change your entire face with one lipstick application is it more of a threat to sanity of those men that are barely holding onto it anyway. The jokes about taking your date to a pool to see if her makeup is gonna, wipe off and what she actually looks like, it still persists today, and it's still just as nonsensical as it used to be, I would say. If you think that red lipstick was considered vulgar because of Puritans associating it with prostitution, you would be only partially correct, because any alterations to someone's looks in terms of painterly alterations was not only considered vulgar, but equated to being amoral, specifically because of religious reasons, where priests and reverends and whoever the hell else who's also religious and in positions of power saw it as blasphemous to change one's looks from what God created them to be. Those condemnations of appearance alterations apparently do not include toupees, but I digress. This type of negative look on makeup was particularly popular in America, and in the late 1800s became kind of a problem for a lot of vendors who realized they have a product that many people would buy, so they wanted to transform it in the eyes of the public as not just something that's popular, since it already was, especially the powder, that was not easily noticed by the public if the users didn't flaunt it, which they didn't, but also make it enviable, right? Desirable, and a sign of good character, of someone who is putting an effort into being an upstanding citizen. How do you make an object a sign of great character? Already, the popular press was linking morality, purity, and self-determination with health and beauty. Even the trade press, like the American Agriculturist, decried the corrosive effects of commonly used beauty industry ingredients, but instead of reform declared that the best beautifiers are health, exercise, and good temper. And as we all know, equating health and beauty with morality is always going to lead to eugenics and ableism becoming deeply, and I mean deeply, okay, ingrained in any societal fabric. So whenever you see beauty and virtue equated, and especially when you see physical strength or perceived health and virtue equated, run or fight or flight, babe, okay? Because whoever is writing this equation is definitely out for blood, okay? This fear instilled in the masses through equating health and beauty with virtue makes them more susceptible to buying into anything that can make them appear healthy or youthful and or beautiful, just so they can have some social capital. This climate is a perfect breeding ground for marketing to change the public opinion on makeup. And what better way to do this than to create a new specialist in makeup? Part of selling this new pro-makeup agenda would rely on creating a new class of experts. It also expanded beauty's borders beyond the local druggist's counters to something aspirational and reimagined cosmetics as tasteful, feminine luxury item. Complexion experts, beauty doctors, professors of aesthetic culture, all of these new titles made the world of beauty more malleable and ready to be transformed into something that was morally less dubious to participate in, deriving higher sales. Just like any other aspect in our society, these moral assumptions were only a danger to those who came from classes that had something to lose. Well, not quite, I guess. The rich have a lot to lose in terms of their things, I guess, but their capital is never really in danger. If you are part of that class, the immoral can turn moral. The bad can just easily be good. As long as everything and anything you do is attached to the lifestyle of the rich, you are the beacon of capitalist dream. If you just work enough, you can be this rich person. And since she is already rich, she must be hardworking and virtuous. Therefore, a red lipstick on her is a sign of class and taste, while a red lip on a peasant is a sign of having too much time spent on vanity and not enough money being saved by not buying anything but the bare minimum. Regardless of all this conversation about the morality of makeup, lipstick kept getting more popular and becoming more and more available to not only be purchased but used on the go. With a patent for the first lipstick actual stick product packaging being patented in 1917. After all these years, out of all the shades of lipstick, red was still making people feel very polarizing things. Both progressive feminists and Puritan religious folk condemned the use of makeup. While suffragists did make red lipstick their signature color, it was still seen as part of oppression, and the same conversation is still being had today. I know it's quite strange that it's both seen as feminist and not feminist, but that's the thing about this topic. Red lipstick and makeup alike, just like many other things that usually affect women, no one seems to really be able to avoid sweeping generalizations. One thing is for sure, that everything takes on its color based on context rather than the nature of the thing itself. Red lipstick was popular with suffragists in early 20th century anti-fascist movement in the 40s due to Hitler famously hating red lipstick because of it being unnatural and not part of the feminine ideal that he had in his head, and also because of the use of animal fat in the production of lipsticks because he was a very devout vegetarian, which is funny as shit to me because like, okay buddy, you can't eat animals but gassing people is chill with you. Okay, whatever bitch. Housewives in the 50s, punk rockers in the 70s and 80s, pop divas of the 2010s. Basically, I would argue red lipstick is not particularly revolutionary or classic. It simply is whatever the context it's in. Just like most things in life, really. The history and symbolism of red has always had the same polarizing qualities. It is a color of love, as well as a color of war. It's a color of roses, blush cheeks, and holiday cards, as well as blood and rage. This is one of the most multifaceted colors out there when it specifically comes to symbolism and cultural connotations. And this is why red, regardless of where it appears, will only be known or defined in context. Not an icon as a product, but an extension of already existing webs of social and cultural dynamics. Also, if I ever get a chance to be funded to do research into red lipstick or makeup that, doesn't revolve around marketing and business bullshit, I'd love to do it because reading all of these articles and books about red lipstick made me realize just how market driven these texts are. And sometimes you just want to hear about culture and not how many lipsticks people bought in 1919 or 1956, There's much more to be explored about it when it comes to cultural context and traditions. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back soon. Bye.